Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar on how BorderConnect's fax service works. My name is Justin Knowlton, eManifest Specialist here at BorderConnect. In today's webinar, we'll show you how to fill out our fax forms, what information we need to process your eManifests, the differences between ACE and ACI, as well as tips to follow and common mistakes to avoid. For anyone who has questions, you can simply use the chat box and type in your question during the course of the webinar, and I will answer your questions at the conclusion. So please be patient, and if you do have any questions, we will get to them at the conclusion. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so this manifest is basically going to cover exactly how the eManifest fax service works. We're also going to cover other things such as what is BorderConnect's fax service and how to make sure you have a seamless border crossing each and every time while using BorderConnect's fax service. BorderConnect's fax service allows you to fax or email your eManifest details to us and have the manifest processed and sent to customs for you electronically. Many carriers use this as their primary method of filing eManifests, and others use it as an after-hours service. So if they're dispatch or someone, you have less bodies in the office, for example, you can use our fax service, instead. During the course of the day, you would then use the software. But after hours, you would use our 24/7 fax service. The intent of this webinar is to provide you the basics about eManifests and giving you kind of like a short learning curve so you can learn about eManifests, what data is required, and everything in between, as well as provide you some of the best practices when using BorderConnect's eManifest fax service. So we'll jump right into it here. What information is required for an AC manifest? Well, you have the trip details. This is what this page is highlighting in this case. So you'll need a unique trip number, a port of arrival, the ETA, you'll need the truck as well as the specific truck elements, the trailer, as well as whatever information such as the trailer type, license plate, and the unit number. You'll need the driver and team driver information if the team driver is in the truck as well as passenger. Now, there is a difference between passenger element and team driver. A team driver is someone who will potentially be driving at some point during your adventure or expedition to wherever you need to go to in the U.S. A passenger, however, is someone who is not necessarily under the employ of your company or the company you drive for and is just kind of tagging along, such as a relative or a friend. The driver, team driver, and passenger travel documents accepted. Now, you're going to notice during the course of the webinar that when I cover the ACI, some of the information will change. So everything is not the same as what you're going to see with Canada as it is to U.S. In the U.S., they do require a Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative document. The acronym for that is WHTI, just in case it is mentioned again. So for a WHTI document, it's essentially something a bit more enhanced. So your basic provincial or state issued identification, such as your basic driver's license or birth certificate, those are not WHTI documents. Essentially, a WHTI document is going to be your enhanced driver's licenses, your fast cards, passport or U.S. passport card, a Nexus card, or even a valid U.S. Visa card are all WHTI approved documents and can be used in crossing into the U.S. Your driver profiles will also need to have that. We'll cover that a bit more in detail in another slide. But of course, for more information on approved WHTI documents, you can visit the link below. So I'll leave this up here for a few seconds in case you did want to write that down. But of course, I will be sending every attendee a package of this PowerPoint presentation that we're going to be going through in a PDF form. So at the conclusion, you will have this link. Okay, so for the shipment elements in ACE, the previous slide was trip details. This is for the shipment details. You're going to need a unique shipment control number, the shipment type, the shipper, the consignee information, the commodity information, and if it's hazardous materials, you will need to provide that as well. Now, if you are doing hazardous materials in ACE, Your company profile will need an insurance policy. Otherwise, you'll get kicked back and it'll reject your manifest for insufficient insurance policy. Basically, what you'll do is if you are carrying hazmat, you would enter the insurance policy of your trucks or your company in your company profile, and then you would assign that insurance policy to the particular truck that's on the manifest. And only then can you get a hazardous goods processed and accepted by CBP. Of course, for more information, you can always give me a call or shoot me an email. Okay, now moving on to ACI, to the other end. Now, this is similar to the trip data in ACE. However, the terminology, as you'll come to see, is a bit different. Basically, trip details is conveyance details. Your conveyance essentially is all of your trip data. And the shipment data is pretty straightforward. That is all your shipment data, your shipper, consignee, and all that. So, unique conveyance reference number is needed, also known as a trip number. And it's slightly different than ACE, because with ACE you can get away with using the same trip number as your PAPS number. In ACI, however, you cannot. The trip number must be unique and can't match any existing PARS number and, of course, any existing trip number that's been used before. So keep that in mind as well. The port of entry is required. The ETA is also required. If you're going in bond to a sublocation warehouse and it's being released inland, you will be required to put in the sublocation or warehouse, but if it's not going in bond, you can skip that field. Truck, trailer, and driver. You'll notice here there is a difference with ACI as opposed to ACE. For truck, you don't need the VIN number. You just need the truck unit the truck unit number as well as the license plate. Everything else, such as the VIN number and truck type, those are only required for AC manifests, and they're not necessarily needed in ACI. You can put that in there, obviously. BorderConnect, once you enter if this truck is going to be used for ACE, I would recommend just putting in the VIN number anyway. The more information, the better. That way, you don't have to worry about entering it later down the line when you try and do an AC manifest for this truck. The trailer as well. Now, this is only required if you have a trailer, of course. If it's a box truck, you're not going to be putting in the trailer, but you will need the trailer unit number, the license plate, and the trailer type. Now, here's a unique little thing for ACI e-manifests. Driver and passenger information is actually not part of the transmission for ACI e-manifests. Apparently, CBSA would like to check on the driver details once the driver arrives at the border, as opposed to it being electronically sent in a manifest. So as such, you don't have to file a manifest with a driver or a passenger. However, I still would recommend doing that, because if that driver is, if you want to print out a driver copy, or if you want to just, when you're looking at the BorderConnect ACI e-manifest listings page and none of the drivers are filled in, you're not going to know what driver belongs to what manifest. But if you did assign a driver, you would be able to see that right from the listings page. So I would recommend putting that in there. And as well, passenger information is not required, as I said. For more information on what's required for ACI e-manifests, you can always visit CBSA's website and go to the link below. For the shipment data for ACI, you're going to need, obviously, a unique cargo control number, also known as a PARS. It's required, and as I mentioned on the conveyance page, it must be different than any existing trip number and any existing PARS number. So make sure it's unique. The shipment type is also required, and the sublocation warehouse, this field also is going to be seen on the shipment portion, and it will be required if it's going in bond, as well as the inland release office. That will also be a field that will need to process your ACI e-manifest if it's going in bond. If this is a CSA shipment, you will need the CSA importer business number. Now, with ACI, you are not required to do CSA loads in ACI. You would just provide the CSA details and the CSA lead sheet and all that other stuff that you're most likely used to doing if you are familiar with CSA loads. However, the only time when a CSA load is required in doing an e-manifest is if you're doing a mixed shipment load. So say, for example, you have a CSA load, and also in that trailer you have a regular PARS shipment that's going to a different destination. In cases like that, you will be required to do a CSA shipment in a CI. But if it's just a straight CSA shipment, you do not need to do that. However, if you do want to comply, you will need the CSA importer business number. You'll need the shipper, the consignee, commodity information, as well as the hazardous materials details. The UN code is the same as it is in the US. It's got that 4-digit code that describes exactly what UN code the hazardous goods is. And if you have that information, you would put in the fields hazmat UN code, emergency contact info, and all the other details required for hazardous material load. You can see here on the right-hand side, we do show you a breakdown of the differences between a trip and a shipment. You'll notice, to make sure that I made the trip not the same as the PARS numbers, I put the word TRIP in there, 00099. That's what I recommend our new customers, if they're a bit confused as to what they should put as the trip number, because it's obviously something internal that you're going to be required to assign to each trip. You could also use your carrier code followed by the date. If you don't have, if you're a small outfit and you don't do many shipments every day, then each date could be its own unique trip number. And you'll see here that anything that's actually on the trailer, regardless of if it's one load or two loads, if it's two loads, it's going to be on one trip. Basically, the bubble that's covering the entire truck and trailer, think of that as your trip. And then you will have multiple packages on your trailer that are going to separate destinations or coming from separate places. They would be your separate shipments. And also, driver and passenger data is a future requirement. So I would recommend getting into the habit of doing that, because you never know when CBSA might turn around and say, okay, we are requiring driver and passenger information now. So it's a good habit to get into. And if you're familiar with doing AC manifests, then it's going to be no hiccup for you. Okay, so what travel documents do you need to cross? Well, there are differences for US and Canada. In the US, as I mentioned before, you will need a Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative travel document, and you must provide at least one of these documents at the port of arrival. Some examples of a WHTI document going into the US are a valid passport or passport card, a valid enhanced driver's license, and as well a valid FAST or Nexus card. Those are all approved WHTI travel documents. There are many more, such as an INAC card for Native Americans, and visas, as long as they're valid visas, permanent resident card issued from the United States. Those are also approved WHTI travel documents. And of course, you can visit CBP's website and search for WHTI approved documents, and you'll be provided an entire list of what is okay to travel. Going into Canada, the other end, for example, it's a bit more laid back. They don't require WHTI documents such as the US, but you will need to provide at least one of these documents to cross into Canada. And that is a proof of citizenship, either a citizenship card, a passport card, a valid driver's license issued by a state or province, a permanent resident card if you're a US permanent resident, or you're on a work visa that's valid, you can use that. You can even use a birth certificate. You can still use a birth certificate to get into Canada, as long as it is obviously you. An INAC card, which is your Native American ID. And of course, going into Canada, you can still use any approved WHTI document, such as an enhanced driver's license, FAST card, Nexus card, etc. Now we're going to bring you to the introduction to BorderConnect's e-manifest fax forms. We recently redesigned a lot of our forms to be a bit more user-friendly, and hopefully you'll take full advantage of using these forms. The first one, starting from left to right, is our pre-registration form. The pre-registration form is for customers that would like to, for us in our office to enter new data, such as truck, trailer, drivers, or passenger, new passengers you'd like to be added to BorderConnect, excuse me. So basically, it just covers if you have a new truck you'd like to add to our system, you could just fill out the truck section, the truck block, and then just fax or email it to the number or email above at the top of the page. and then one of the employees in our office will enter the data that you want us to enter into BorderConnect. And for future reference, you would not have to enter that again. So basically, if you fill out the truck portion of the eManifest pre-registration fax form, and you fill out all those fields in that block and send it to us, the next time you do a manifest, you do not need to enter that. All you'll need to enter is the required elements on our ACE or ACI eManifest fax form, which is on the truck line or the trailer line. So you won't need to enter a VIN, and you won't need to enter the truck or trailer type again. You'll just need, basically, when you send in a fax to us using our fax form, you would just have to enter the truck unit number, the truck plate, and province, not the actual truck unit type or the VIN number or transponder information. Same with the driver. If you look at the pre-registration form driver page or driver section, it does have a lot of fields that need to be filled in, and those are required elements that we will need in order to enter a driver properly into BorderConnect, especially if they want to comply with AC Manifest. So if you compare the driver block to the AC Manifest fax form driver line, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down from the top, all it's asking for is a driver name. That's it. Because once we have that information in our database, the driver from the original pre-registration form, we won't need to ask for any additional details again. We essentially just need the driver name. So these are our fax forms. I'm sure you'll get familiar with it. If you would like to be sent any fax forms just to kind of get familiar with what it looks like, or if you'd like any feedback, just give us a call or email me at the conclusion, and we can go over it together. Now, this is for providing new information to BorderConnect. Essentially, this is a pre-registration form, as I mentioned, and on the left is a blank one, and on the right is one that was faxed in and sent to us. Now, I apologize for the legibility. The legibility was actually quite easy to read. It's just that when I transferred over to an image, it got a bit grainy, so I apologize for that. But essentially, we get faxes digitally into the office, and this is what we would see on the right-hand side. As you can see, Andy Anderson filled out all the necessary fields. So the next time we do a manifest, all he has to put is his truck unit number, trailer unit number, and his name. We won't have to be calling him back asking for, what is your driver's license number. All that information will be keyed in from this page by one of our employees in the office. So that is the pre-registration form. This is essentially the form you'll need if you're going to be a fax customer to get started. And then once you have the information in the database, you would be able to process AC manifests. Now on the left is an example of an invoice you may receive, something that looks very familiar to you if you've ever picked up documents from a shipper. When you fill out the AC manifest fax form, you're going to want to make sure that you look at necessary fields on invoices to make sure that BorderConnect receives the proper information that we are looking for. So we'll start from the top on the AC Manifest fax form. The carrier name, it's ABC Carriers. It looked like this person wanted an ACE cover sheet fax back for a barcoded ACE cover sheet, which is convenient because once we finish processing the manifest, we're going to send a driver copy back his ACE cover sheet. And what that's going to have on it is it's going to have a barcoded trip number on it that he can then provide to the officer, who can easily scan it or key it in from that point. He put in his trip number, the port of arrival, the ETA. He put in his truck unit number, the truck plate, where the plate is issued, as well as the trailer information and a seal. He put in his name, his cell phone number. I always recommend putting in a cell phone number because if we are missing any information or we can't read something, for example, you're going to always want to put that the driver's cell phone number in there so we can give you a call back and verify the information that we're missing or can't read. Looks like he put in his email address as well, which is fine because then if the driver has access to his email while he's on the road, we can just send him an email that way as well. Just an added added element of communication. Looks like his team driver, Steve Anderson, is on there. He's got the shipment control number. He selected the shipment type and the shipper and consignee. For the shipper and consignee, if you look on the left, we're going to look at this customs invoice. So for the shipper, he used at the top left of the invoice, he has Orion Syndicate. So that's where the exporter, shipper, seller, and mailing address is, as you can see by this invoice. And he put that in, which is correct. He followed that exactly. For the consignee and mailing address, it's going to California. It looks like at Stars Police Station. So right away, he's able to know exactly where he's picking up and exactly where this shipment is going. And he entered it correctly. And now if you look down on the invoice, you'll see the description of goods as well as a PAP sticker. He put the lumber in there. Description of goods on the fax form is lumber. And he also followed the quantity properly as well, 12 units. And he got the shipping weight as well, 46,500, and he hand wrote that in there. So this is a perfect example of the information we need. And for the shipment control number, he also went off the sticker, which is exactly what you're looking for. Once you assign a sticker to it, essentially that is your shipment control number, and you would put that in there. So this is a perfect example of how to take information from an invoice and put it onto one of BorderConnect's AC manifest fax forms. Now, this is how to fill out a BorderConnect ACI e-manifest fax form. So this one's going into Canada as opposed to the last one, which is going into the US. This one here, you can see that he took the vendor for the shipper and he used, which is fine because you don't necessarily want to use the vendor at all actually, because customs want exactly where it's coming from. They want to know where the shipment was actually being picked up from. In this case, if you look at the bottom of this Canada Customs invoice, the originator is what you're looking for. And as you can see, the originator is the same as vendor. So this is filled out correctly. Stars Police Station in Raccoon City, California, that is where it's actually being picked up from. So try not to use a vendor at all. Always use an originator. If the originator is left blank, or there is no originator and you just have a vendor, but that's not where you actually picked up from, usually the correct address will be the exporter's name. And on this invoice, this Canada Customs invoice, you'll see that the exporter is the same as the vendor. For the consignee, you can see here, it's clearly stated on the Canada Customs invoice. And the purchaser, that has nothing to do with the logistics of the shipment. This has something to do with the finances of this transaction. But it's not information that BorderConnect will need, nor is it going to be a consignee. The consignee is clearly listed in box 4 of this Canada Customs invoice, and that is the Orion Syndicate, which was entered on the consignee block of the ACI fax form. And the description of goods is pretty straightforward. His medical supplies, it looks like he combined the line items, which is exactly what we're looking for, just a total quantity, 450 packages. Now you'll see that there is a piece count. We don't want a piece count. We want the lowest external package count, because that when the officer if the officer ever pops open the trailer, he's not going to see those, 25,130 pieces and the 90,250 pieces. He's going to pop it open and he's going to see the packages on the skids. So he's going to see, 40 or 50 boxes per skid. So you want them you want to put the lowest external package count always. And I would recommend doing that for both ACE and ACI. I know with ACI, they haven't quite fully stated that, but we've noticed some penalties coming in regarding not putting the proper external package count in. So they don't officially say that with ACI. With ACE, they do. They want the lowest external package count. So you're not going to go with the pieces. You're not going to go with the skids. You're going to go with the cartons, the packages, the boxes, all those boxes that are going to be contained in the skid. So looks like this XYZ Trucking Inc. followed this one to a T as well. For ACI e-manifest, what the CBSA officer needs. Okay, so we have the preferred options, the acceptable options, and the not acceptable options. Now, I'm providing you this page right now because penalties are coming in. CBSA is basically running a zero tolerance for penalties being issued with ACI e-manifests. And I just want to make sure that we know exactly what you're to provide at the port of entry when your driver arrives and provides the paperwork to the officer. Because you're going to want to make sure that you avoid the far right option. Those are not acceptable. The barcoded CR conveyance reference number and cargo control number are not provided at all. So you're going to want to make sure that you never ever provide paperwork that's handwritten or doesn't have any sort of scannable barcode on the paperwork. Now we'll go to the center option. These are acceptable. Some officers that are sticklers may give your driver a little bit of a hard time, but according to CBSA, this is still acceptable. You'll see the options are you have the BorderConnect generated e-manifest lead sheets. That is the option there that you'll see. You'll also see another BorderConnect fax form that's handwritten. However, it has a barcoded PAR sticker on the cover sheet. That is also acceptable. Or if you don't have any of those and you're stuck in a pickle and all you have is your invoice with a PAR sticker on it, that is still acceptable by CBSA. However, the preferred options and for the most seamless border crossing you can have is by using the BorderConnect lead sheets. They have the barcoded conveyance reference number on them. And this is essentially if you ask for a fax back using the fax back field on the e-manifest fax forms, these two options are going to be what you'll get. The top option under the preferred option is the detailed lead sheet. Now that includes the shipment information, the shipment type, the quantity. If there's a transaction number, that would be provided as well. So it's a bit more detailed, and as you can see, this is a bonded load because it's including the sublocation warehouse. So if you do have a bonded load and you request a fax back, you're going to want to make sure you request a detailed driver's copy. The other preferred option is the one below, which is just your basic fax back option. This is also most likely what you'd receive if you requested an ACI cover sheet fax back. So the ones on the left, that's what I'd recommend requesting every time, and that can easily be requested just by filling in the ACI cover sheet fax back option at the top of your fax form. Once we're done processing it, we would send you one of these lead sheets. Some notable differences between ACE and ACI. ACE is a bit older than ACI. It took Canada quite some time to get up to speed with their ACI program. However, the U.S. has made it mandatory since September 2007, whereas Canada recently, it just became mandatory in January of 2016. In ACE, e-manifest data is processed by CBP in about 30 to 60 seconds. We have noticed times even get processed a bit faster, in about 15 to 30 seconds we've noticed now, whereas in ACI, e-manifest data typically is processed in about 5 to 10 minutes. We've seen that trickle down a few times. We've seen that be longer at some times, but that's usually the average, between 5 and 10 minutes. So the processing times are significantly different. So if you're familiar with ACE, you'll notice that ACI can be a bit sluggish at times. And also with ACE, trip and shipment data are sent together, and with ACI, trip and shipment data are sent separately. BorderConnect, when we launched ACI, we wanted to give people the familiarity that they were used to with ACE. So what we did is, even though the messages are sent separately, you have one button and that transmits both at the same time. So it gives people that familiarity that they're used to with ACE. But in the back end, they're sent separately. With ACE, the driver may present a cover sheet with a legible trip number. It can be handwritten. It doesn't need to be a barcode. With ACI, however, the driver must present a barcoded PARS or conveyance reference number. With ACE, broker entries are synchronized in ACE, so there's no additional registrations that need to be done with ACE. ACE was designed to include entry numbers from brokers' entries. In ACI, however, the broker entries are not provided through ACI. CBSA is working on making a future implementation of ACI to include brokers' entry numbers for shipments, but as of right now, ACI does not provide transaction numbers from brokers. However, with BorderConnect, part of our ACI package subscription is you can register for the release notification system, And once you're accepted by CBSA to track your PARs in BorderConnect, you can get set up for automatic text messages for entry numbers, and it would work essentially in the same way ACE does. So bundling RNS, release notification, with your ACI subscription would provide you essentially the same features that BorderConnect's AC manifest has. With ACE, you cannot use foreign addresses for consignees, i.e. in bonds for Mexico or any other shipments that are going in bond to a foreign destination. You are to use the bonded warehouse that it's going to. So say, for example, if it's going to Mexico, the address you will use, actually the address you can only use is the one that's going most likely into like Laredo, Texas or El Paso, Texas or something like that. With ACI, you can use Mexican addresses or other foreign addresses if the final destination is a foreign destination. With ACE, CBP has a bit more leniency with penalties, and they're willing to work with you to get the penalties mitigated down within reason. With CBSA, however, they're very strict with AMPS penalties, and you cannot usually mitigate the fines down. Like I said previously, it looks like it's a zero tolerance policy right now with CBSA, and if you don't arrive to the border, for example, with an ACI, or you have some missing information or information isn't correct, you will most likely be slapped with some sort of AMPS penalty. Required shipment types to be filed in ACE and ACI, you can see the differences here. We'll start with ACE. So empty and bobtailed loads are not required. You do not need to do an AC manifest. For PAPs, you will need an AC manifest. In bonds, you'll need an AC manifest. For IITs, empty racks, bins, all those instruments of international traffic, you will need an ACE for that. You will also need an ACE for a Section 321, a brass C4 line release, which they have phased out already, but I still see lingering brass C4s in our system that we do process every so often. So some C4 codes are still valid, but probably 95% of them are not relevant anymore. Goods astray, intangibles, free of duty, returned American products, and personal shipments are all required to be filed in ACE. For ACI, you do not need to do an empty ACI. However, I would recommend doing them because they did originally, their intent was to force people to do e-manifests for empty loads. However, they kind of fell back on that. They pulled back on that, and it isn't required now, but they are saying that they will be a future requirement. So just get in the habit of doing it. PARs, obviously, you will need to do an ACI. CSA, and as I mentioned, only if loaded with other shipment types. But if it's just CSA, you don't need to do an ACI. If you need to do one for in bonds, however, you need to do one for an IIT, which is a cargo exemption, as well as other cargo exemptions such as a courier low-value shipment, a postal shipment, a flying truck, and emergency repairs. Those are all cargo exemptions, and they all need to do. You will need to do an ACI for all those exemptions. You also need to do some e-manifests for E29Bs for temporary admissions, ATA carnets, goods astray, orders in council, personal goods, A49 automotive releases, as well as paper clearance shipments such as RMDs and paper B3s and master provisionals. Those are all shipments that need to be, those are all shipment types that need to be done through ACI. And for other types of shipments, additional info will need to be provided for specific shipment types. So for ACE, your low-value shipments of under $800 US, you will need to provide a total value and country of origin for us to process your Section 321. For ACE and bonds, we will need the bond type, the bond number, the U.S. destination, the foreign destination, the carrier IRS number, the U.S. departure date, value, HS code, and country of origin. Now, some of those you won't need depending on what type of bond it is. For a T&E bond, I don't believe you need a country of origin. However, for an in-transit bond, you will need it. So some of those fields, I'm just giving you examples of additional information we will need if you do want us to process an ACE and bond for you via our fax service. We will need that information. Also, for a brass C4 line release, which they're phasing out, we will need the C4 line release number. When you are faxing us paperwork for different types of shipments, such as Section 321 ASIN bond or anything like that, it would be beneficial to include the actual filled-in customs forms, because if we do need to reference some other information, it will be filled out on these forms. So if it's a free of duty, for example, please include the CBP Form 7523. If it's returned American products, include the CBP Form 3311, personal shipment and QPN bond. If the broker is involved in doing a bond, it would be beneficial to include the bond fax back that the broker does send back to you, just in case, again, we need to reference information on that paperwork. For ACI, if you're doing a CSA load, if you want us to do a CSA load for you, we will need the importer CSA business number. If it's an in-bond, please attach the A8A with a sublocation and inland release office codes. Apologize. And as well, if it's another type of specific shipment, we will need the filled-in A8A or A49 document, depending on what type of shipment it is. Best practices to follow for using our fax service. Please include the driver or dispatcher phone number on the fax form. There are still many fax customers out there who don't include any contact info whatsoever. So if they don't follow up with us and we don't have any contact info on the paperwork, the driver could potentially arrive at the border without an e-manifest and be liable for fines and such. So please include the driver or dispatch phone number on the fax form, just in case BorderConnect is missing information or info needs to be clarified. We must be able to reach someone in regards to the information on the fax form. In ACI, you must wait 1 hour after your e-manifest has been accepted by CBSA. It's so important right now with CBSA and them dishing out fines. I'm going to say this again. In ACI, you must wait 1 hour after your e-manifest has been accepted by CBSA. As I said, CBSA has initiated a zero tolerance policy. To find out when you'll be cleared to cross, you can always contact BorderConnect 24/7. So please follow up to see when your manifest was accepted. That way, one of our customer support representatives can tell you exactly when you should be good to go. Make sure to send your paperwork to the customs broker first and make sure they received and processed your entry. Brokers can take up to hours to process entries. So you're going to want to verify that the broker used the correct shipment control number and that the entry is certified by customs before you cross. That's probably the first thing I would do. Once you're at the shipper, you get all the paperwork. You don't necessarily need to send it to us because BorderConnect can take less than 10 minutes sometimes to process faxes or emails. But you're going to want to get that paperwork to the broker and just verify that they got it, because it can take some time for them to get to it and then process it. In ACI, you must provide a barcoded lead sheet or cargo control number to the officer at the border. With ACE, not necessarily a huge deal. It's just got to be legible on the paperwork. But with ACI, you're going to want to make sure, as I said before in previous slides, that you do have a proper barcoded PAR sticker or conveyance reference number. So just fill in the ACI e-manifest fax back field on the fax form, and you'll be taken care of right away. So that's scratched off once you do that. Make sure you print legibly or use the digitally fillable PDF fax form. All of our fax forms are digitally fillable. So if you are on the road, if you want to use your iPad or tablet or your phone and just make sure you key it in without even having to write it in, you can do that. Because if incorrect data is entered or data is missing, delays and penalties may be assessed by Customs and CBP or CBSA. Common mistakes to avoid. In ACI, the trip number must not be the same as the PARS number. So when you're filling out the fax form and then you're immediately putting in the trip number as 1234 PARS 0000556, but yet that's your PARS number, you're going to run into a problem, because now we can't process your manifest until we verify a correct trip number for you, or we're going to have to follow up with you and tell you that, hey, you need to give us a new trip number because we can't process this. CBSA requires the conveyance reference number, the trip number, to be unique, and it also cannot match any existing cargo control number, i.e. PARS numbers. Always call to confirm the paperwork was received by BorderConnect. We have many customers that still do not follow up and there have been cases when they've been stuck at the border. So please provide adequate time for BorderConnect to receive your fax or email. BorderConnect uses multiple fax servers, and it could take up to 10 minutes for BorderConnect to receive the paperwork. So once you email it or fax us, give us about 10 minutes or so, and then give us a call. Because, if you just fax it, a minute ago, and then you're calling us, chances are we're not going to have your paperwork yet because it has to go through a pipeline first. If you're unsure of something or have questions, call BorderConnect. Many mistakes can be avoided or resolved with a quick phone call to one of our support agents, and BorderConnect can be reached 24/7. So there are no excuses. If you have any questions or you just want to make sure you're filling it out correctly, give us a call. Who is processing the paperwork and how long does it take? BorderConnect's friendly e-manifest specialists are fully trained on the procedures involved with ACE and ACI e-manifests. BorderConnect's 24/7 e-manifest processing center processes approximately 7,500 e-manifests for ACE and ACI a month. BorderConnect support agents also support thousands of companies who are relying on BorderConnect's e-manifest portal. So for companies that process it themselves using our system, but yet they have a question or something's getting rejected, the same people, the same agents who are processing manifests for our fax service are also taking calls, fixing drivers stuck at the border, fixing manifests and rejected status from thousands of customers. BorderConnect's average e-manifest processing time is about 6.1 minutes. And of course, this may fluctuate based on when the paperwork was received and how much data is needed to process the manifest. So for example, if it's a larger LTL load, it has 13 shipments on it, it's going to take a bit longer than 6.1 minutes to process that manifest. And the 6.1 minute processing time is based on 2015 and 2016 averages for over 180,000 manifests that we've processed using our fax service. There's Jody in the bottom left, one of our star employees here. And also all e-manifests internally here at BorderConnect that we process, they go through a thorough verification process to make sure the correct information is processed. This limits the amount of human error involved with data entry and potential delays and fines by customs. So to clarify how that works, our verification process is quite simple. One employee will go ahead and enter the manifest data based on the paperwork that was received to us. Another employee, after the manifest is processed, will go through that paperwork that was sent in to us to verify that that other employee that originally processed it entered the correct data. And this has probably saved companies millions of dollars already just since we've added this verification feature internally. And below there is a example of what our verification looks like. So Justin went in there and he changed the shipment to the gross weight because it looks like it was an ACE e-manifest and you want to use the gross weight as much as possible. And then we marked it as that we corrected the error because the gross weight was listed, but it looks like the original employee that entered it did not use the gross weight. So that's an example of how the verification process works. One employee does it, the other employee double checks to make sure that it was all the information was entered correctly. Helpful features to using BorderConnect's fax service. In addition to using our fax service, you can set up drivers or dispatchers with SMS text messages or email alerts to know when shipments are cleared. This is completely automated and hands-off. So once we process a manifest in here, in our office, and the driver's profile is set up for SMS text messages or emails, once it is certified by customs through the broker, the driver will then receive the entry number on his phone, and he'll know that he's good to go. You can get transaction numbers for ACI. As I mentioned in the previous slide, ACI does not provide transaction numbers for shipments. So you're kind of blind in that aspect. But if you register for BorderConnect's release notification system to track your parcel shipments, you will have an added element of visibility at no extra cost. And your drivers can be set up for text messages and your dispatchers for email notifications for Canadian-bound shipments. You can also generate sequences of ACE and ACI cover sheets ahead of time, which saves you time and money for not waiting for lead sheets to be faxed back to the driver. So essentially, what you can do is similar to PARS and PAP stickers. You can generate a sequence of 50, 20, 100 lead sheets with unique conveyance reference numbers or trip numbers on each one. So then the driver can just call you in the office and the dispatcher, and the dispatcher would then know what the next trip number will be, and the dispatcher will not have to worry about sending paperwork to the driver wherever he is. So the driver will be in full control of what his next trip number will be. And also you can reach eManifest support 24/7, contact trained experts day or night, and never worry about being put on hold or waiting. So how much does it cost? Well, BorderConnect offers predictable and very simple pricing options. There's no minimum monthly fees to use our service. There's also no sign-up fee involved at all. Training and basically trying us out for our software anyway is completely free with no obligation. Our fax service, however, there is data entry involved, so unfortunately there is no free trial with our fax service right now. But it is a very competitive $4 a trip and $6 a shipment. If you have additional shipments, obviously there's more data entry involved here in our office, and you will need to be aware of the price increase for additional shipments. We also have eManifest software plans. The pricing page can obviously, you can take a look. It's fully visible to anybody who checks our website, and the plans start at no cost. So we do have a completely free plan for small operations or owner-operators that have under 40 shipments per month. And that is, of course, after their free 30-day trial. So we have plans that start at free indefinitely if you're under that 40 shipment threshold, and they go up based on your volume per month. And of course, regardless of how many shipments you do in the first 30 days, it is free. All our plans include 24/7 live support, real-time shipment tracking. The data, your trucks, trailers, shippers, and consignees are all stored indefinitely. SMS text message alerts for drivers, email message alerts for drivers or dispatchers, and of course you can generate eManifest cover sheets for your driver to have in the cab with him and not have to worry about printing it each time. And of course, for more information, visit our pricing page below. Can you get set up today? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. To register for our fax service, you can go to BorderConnect.com and click the orange Sign Up Now button at the top of our website. Enter your company details and verify your email. Once that's been done, a sales representative will follow up with you in 1 business day or less. Or you can just give us a call after you register, and we'll be happy to make sure your account's approved and verified and you're ready to rock. If you have a valid SCAT code, Standard Carrier Alpha code for the United States, you can start using our service for AC manifests immediately with no hiccups involved at all. You can get going right away. However, for Canada, it's a bit different. If you have a valid Canadian carrier code, we'll send you the documents needed to complete the process with CBSA. And once you've been approved by CBSA, we will activate your account and inform you. This process typically takes CBSA about 2 to 5 business days until you can start using our service for ACI eManifest. But once you do that, then you're good. You're good for ACE and ACI. We do have tutorial videos available and other social media pages. Subscribing to our YouTube channel, you'll see we have countless tutorial videos. You'll see a full library of webinars, previous webinars that we have hosted in the past. So that is very informative. Just go to youtube.com and search for all one word, lowercase, BorderConnect. And it should be the first page that comes up. You can find us on Facebook, and you can also find us on Google+. Facebook and Google+, you can stay informed with all the latest customs initiatives, the newest BorderConnect features, and we'll throw in some Easter eggs in there as well. So definitely follow us on our social media platforms, and you'll stay on top of basically as much as we know. All right, so if you have any questions, now's the time. I'll take a short break and I'll wait to see if anybody has any questions. So just bear with us. So I'm going to conclude our question and answer session and conclude the webinar. I'd like to thank everyone for attending. Our next webinar, as I said, will be on May 17th, where we'll show you how to use BorderConnect's RNS parse tracking for your Canadian shipments. So for those who have friends or coworkers that you think should tune in, please let them know. Also, BorderConnect will be attending Truxpo in beautiful Abbotsford, British Columbia on May 13 to 14th. For more information regarding Truxpo or to register for future webinars, visit BorderConnect's events page. To view a history of all BorderConnect's tutorial videos or past webinars, find us on YouTube and simply type in BorderConnect, all one word. Also, like us on Facebook to stay on top of the latest customs announcements and software updates to BorderConnect. To sign up for a free 30-day ACE or ACI eManifest software trial or to register for any of the aforementioned webinars, you can visit our website at BorderConnect.com or email me directly at Justin, Justin, at BorderConnect.com, and I'll send you the registration links. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact our toll-free number at 1-800-596-5176 and ask for Justin. Have a nice day, everyone, and thank you for attending.